So the world traveler is back, and his world travels, among other places, have taken him recently. He was so thrilled, as any of us would have been in the Tesla community, to find a way to get to the shareholders meeting. So I am got Brian White here today from My Tesla Weekend, and Brian, were you excited?
Oh my gosh, was I excited. One of my patrons got in touch with me and said, Brian, I know you've tried 9 times to get into events or locations unsuccessfully. I have a +1. Let me know today if you want it, because I have to give him a name. And I said, put me down. I booked my tickets. I last minute tickets come in 2 varieties, affordable or convenient, but not both. So I took an indirect flight, which I am not a fan of, but worth it. And so I was able to use my miles. It cost me $11. That was a good way to do it. And and I got down there, and it was probably Saturday that I finally got my QR code, with the event being on Tuesday, because they're like, oh yeah, we've got his name, but his statements are out of date. He needs to update his statements, and there's no place to do that on the web portal. Once you upload it, the button goes away. So I had to email it. So the whole thing, but I did it. I got in, and I was very excited.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you like having Brian on this channel, hit the like button. Even if you're not thrilled with Brian, but you think he brings something smart to the channel, that'd be okay too. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit notify, because you're going to want to know. We're going to have him on we're going to have him on dozens of times in the future. But in this 3-week period where I'm laying back in my little grass shack in Kauai, we've got him scheduled for four shows. So you want to know when those other shows are going to be. That's in the information below. Tells you every time Brian's going to be on. So hit notify if you want to be notified, and then follow us. Follow Brian, follow me. He's on Twitter. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's got a Patreon thing going. You know what to do. So Brian, what? Okay, I want to start from the very top. We're not going to bury the lead here. I don't even know what the lead is yet, but we're not going to bury it. We're going to go right for the top here. What was the most important thing, the most important person you met, the most important new thing you learned, the most important minute of your time at the shareholder meeting?
Boy, there's a bunch. So I did finally get to meet in person Rob Maurer. We've talked many times before he had a YouTube channel, when he was just a podcaster. I tried to help him get on YouTube. The timing wasn't right. I would have loved to have been instrumental in getting him on YouTube, but it wasn't meant to be. And I didn't know how familiar with my work he was. I wasn't familiar with it. I didn't know what to expect. And when I met him, he was mobbed. It was very busy, and I just want to say hello. And he said to me, no one would have caught it, but he said, "How are you doing? Is everything going good for you?" And it was like that meant a lot to me, because it means that he knows what I'm doing. He knows that it's a struggle for smaller, younger channels that didn't have the first mover advantage. And that was really great. And then I of course, got a picture with him, which makes me look like a hobbit, but that's fine. And I also got to meet Farzad in person for the first time. We've obviously talked a number of times, right. And that was great. As you would expect, he's very personable, he's very likable, he's very charming. That didn't surprise me as much. But the surprise to me, because there was that whole presentation, the shareholder meeting was not much different than any other shareholder meeting. And just like always, the nuns showed up to say, we are putting it to a vote, mandate third-party audits to make sure that children are not being used in your mines. The big thing was, Elon said, you know what? We'll do it. I'm not saying vote for it. I'm saying it's going to happen either way. Most of our cars worldwide do not use cobalt or nickel in the batteries. The ones that do use cobalt use less cobalt than the competition. And I hope that now your crusade will take you to the next manufacturer and ask them to do the same. Because we can eliminate cobalt in our cars, but we can't eliminate child labor in mines unless everyone does it. And we'll put a webcam at the mine, and if
No, I
you
love that.
see, I love it. If you see children going in, please tell us. And it's not that easy to secure it, but the third-party audit would be able to confirm that, no, your cobalt is coming from these legitimate sources. And, you know, where's the grief for the phone makers, for the other car? We need to be putting the screws to all of them, not just holding Tesla to a higher standard. And what's crazy, I talked about this with Herbert last Friday, is why aren't, on Brighter with Herbert, why isn't this in the news? Why isn't this headline news? To me, this was the biggest news, and it just disappeared into the ethos. It was very weird, into the ether.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know if you're familiar. I don't know if the listening audience is familiar, but when you're a manufacturer, for instance, when I had my plant, one of my clients was Disney. Disney had third-party auditors. They came to my plant. I not only had to fill out a form that said that I did not have any children sleeping overnight in my facility. That was among the things I had to declare.
Sure.
But they had people come and walk through the facility. Then, if I had imported products, which I did, I was a Garfield and Snoopy, I made Garfield and Snoopy bicycle toys in Asia and in China. And so I now had to get proof from the supplier in China and then from their supplier, okay, that they did not have child labor and that they didn't, have people working more than 10 hours a day and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a very elaborate process. So what the nuns were asking for is not unusual at all. I suppose the unusual aspect of it is, shouldn't Apple and all these folks, I'm sure that they have third-party audits going. Are they reporting them like Tesla does every year with that elaborate update of the things that they're doing for the environment and for humanity? I don't know.
So the encouraging part, pardon me, the encouraging part to me was that mistakes can happen, but we're trying to avoid them. We're trying to prevent them. I know there is a video coming up on a channel that is critical of the Boring Company's use of water in Bastrop, Texas. And the gentleman who runs that was able to find that there was some kind of brouhaha when they were putting in the water management system in Texas that required fairly extensive rework. And he's got a FOIA request, but it's going to take some time because apparently the amount of material is substantial. But the good news is that that Elon and his companies do care, and that they are trying to do the right thing, even when it is sometimes difficult. So that's just that part of the shareholder meeting. I imagine you'd like to know what else I saw that was great.
I do. I want to know what else happened that just blew your mind. Yes.
Well, I got to see inside the factory. I got to see a factory tour. It wasn't the one that we saw, that many people got to see at Cyber Rodeo, where you get to see the batteries and the casting and the stamp. You get to see everything. No. This was just final assembly. And there were some very neat things. No pictures, no video, of course. And while I always, in those situations, play very dumb so I can ask more questions and maybe get some candid answers, it was my impression that they might know who I am, because I kind of fell to the back of the group, and a gentleman came up and decided he was going to helpfully help people around me with questions and just kind of corral me. So, but I still played dumb. What we got to see is the cars are on autonomous skateboards being moved around. And you can walk out in front of it and it'll, of course, stop and wait for you to pass. And I got to see that there's one line running. And I confirmed that. I said, how many? One line. One line, we're making 2170 and 4680 models on this one line. And a gentleman asked, are there more lines that we can't see? He goes, no, what you see, this is it. This is all of it. And I said, what's through that door over there? He goes, nothing. Can't tell you. Can't talk about it. I'm like, that's Cybertruck area, but I'm going to just continue playing dumb. So they've got one line, and they're making 5,000 a week plus. They've got 2 more lines going in. We know. We watch the robots go in. We watch them add to the stamping cathedral to add more capacity. We watch them add more casting machines. That means 3 lines would be a minimum of 15,000 a week. 15,000 a week. That's 750,000 cars a year from a factory that is not rated for that, according to the financial statements.
Right.
But we always knew that number.
Right.
You and I always knew that number was a sandbagged number. And that's before we even start talking about the Cybertruck, which is going to be another, Elon says, 250 to 500,000, which again is a lie. That is a lie. It's going to be 500,000 to 1 million, is my steadfast belief. So the big takeaway from that was seeing how it's done, seeing the beautiful processes and procedures in there, seeing the absolute hectic chaos. And, you could say, well, maybe they just sandbagged a little and just pushed them out faster when you got there. That's not how assembly works. They either can do the pace or they can't. And if you don't believe that that's the real pace, watch the drone footage. You see the cars popping out all day. So the factory is ramping. It is, I'm like right now, my heart is racing just talking about it because I'm so excited about, this is happening, man. This is everything we wanted to see and we got to see it. And the exciting part was then Joe Tetmeyer went ahead and put up the site map, the picture of the footprint, and said, this is the part that we actually saw, this little section right here. Because you're in this room and it is so massive. It goes on forever. And then there's a big concrete wall. And I elbowed my buddy and I said, that wall is only just a little over a third of the way through the building. There's another section as big as this, and then a section in between about half this size. And that is 80, 50 feet up. That's not the roof. That's the ceiling. There's another floor.
Yeah.
So this place is, and we could see a couple 100,000 square feet of a 9 million square foot building. The plaque said it's a 10 million square foot facility, but I assume that includes the other buildings that they've put up as well.
Got it.
So that was very, very exciting.
So everybody says, I think you might have already seen the Cybertruck at the Peterson Museum when you were there. Mm-hmm. Would this have been a updated version? Were there differences?
There were absolutely differences.
And what are your impressions in person, since my wife has one on order?
So the prototype was very exciting to see. I made a lot of notes. I caught a lot of things that didn't seem right to me, like the back fenders had a seam along them, which I thought that doesn't work with an origami design. But this is a prototype, so we saw now we see the alpha, and it's probably the final build, and there are some differences. That is now a crease rather than a fold rather than a joint, which is what we wanted to see. The design, the styling changes are subtle, but I prefer them. It's the nose is more, it's more snub nose than the prototype, but the spirit is still there. It's just, to me, a softer kind of design. Not much softer. It's 5%. It's 5% less pointy than a knife, but it's still a knife. What I'm looking forward to seeing is how low it can get. When the airbags are all the way down, what does it look like? How easy is it to get in and out of? Because I think for people who want a beefy truck but have less mobility than when they were in their 20s or 30s, this might be the exact right car for getting in and out. Where a lot of trucks are challenging. I'm sure you've ridden in a truck that was uncomfortably tall for egress, but so the design looks great. They didn't let us get remotely close to it. There's a big concrete platform out in front of the entrance there, and it was parked in the middle of it, and you do not step up onto it, you do not sit on it, you do not rest your foot on it. There's a huge security guy right there. more as a presence than anything else, but there's people all the way around it ready to bark at you if you get too close. Which is unfortunate. I'd have liked to have had a opportunity to touch the gosh darn thing, or at least get closer. So I think the styling changes are wonderful. I mean, good, I guess. Still not a fan of the windshield wiper katana, because it's more than a blade, but it's what you have to do. So seeing the Cybertruck beta was important and helpful, and I'm glad I got to do it.
Cool. So then, any other top of mind things with regard to your visit?
Yeah, they had a little shed built as a demonstration of what's available in solar and energy. On one side, they had regular solar panels, but they'd put a piece of trim around it that makes it look a lot less industrial. And on the other side, they had the solar tiles. Now, I am deeply disappointed in the solar tile program because what they showed at the unveiling was beautiful. And what they produced is glass. It's fine. No one's going to mistake it for anything but what it is. And that's fine. Another kind of disappointment is there's two kinds of solar panels, solar tiles, real and dummy. And the dummy ones you use at the edge where you don't have enough space, or if there's, you might put it on the whole back if there's not enough light on that side. They don't match. You can tell which ones are which. You can visibly tell from quite a distance which ones are real and which ones are ornamental, which is for a $100,000, $300,000 roof, deeply disappointing. And then on the wall they had Powerwalls version 1 and 2. They had the home charger, handle and all that. But it was nice to at least see them still moving forward on the solar front, however slowly, however glacially.
And I had heard that they were switching to steel instead of glass. Was there any conversation about that, or any poster?
I didn't see anything that would lead me to that conclusion. I'm not sure how that would work, but yeah.
Yeah, this is just again, I think it was Tesla Roddy or somebody did some reporting on that. Okay. And
I did have one other thing. There was the semi was there, not a prototype, an actual working semi, which you could go into if you wanted to wait in an unforgivably long line. I don't know if you can tell, but I got a little bit of sun, so I was not about to stand out in that 1 second longer than I had to. Because if I walk past a window on a cloudy day, I still burn.
But yes, I understand it totally. Yes.
Yeah, but seeing it in person, there were a lot fewer differences from the prototype than what I expected. I got to see the prototype at the Peterson Museum. The big thing it had was, on the back there's double tires. On the prototype, they just use one fat tire for each spot instead of doubles. And I looked at that, and, they put like custom hot rod tire. I was like, well, that's not going to make the final. And of course it didn't. Why would it? That makes no sense. It's just beautiful. But aesthetically, it is the same truck. So it was very interesting to see that in person. If the line was shorter, I might have waited in it, but there was nothing to see. I mean, we've seen what the inside looks like, and it looks like that. Yeah. And Ellie in Space and Dr. Know-It-All did a collab in the cab, which is a great name for a video about that. The collab in the cab. They covered it as well as I or anyone could have. So you can just watch that and get the whole idea. So that's a lot of fun. Was there anything else I saw?
I was wondering about the mood. What was the mood?
Oh. Have you ever been to a shareholders meeting for a company that wasn't Tesla before? No. I have. And the mood at a shareholder meeting is business. This is not business. This is a rock concert. This is, people cheered for him drinking water. There's jumbotrons. It is when you go in, there's the seating area and it's roped off and there's security standing there like all along it for 4 hours waiting for it to get started. And then when they finally say, okay, and they unroped it, it was a madhouse. It was crazy. The rush was crazy. And yeah, when it started, everyone was excited. Everyone's cheering for everybody. I don't know how many companies where the head of investor relations can come out to introduce it, and everyone's like, oh, that's Martin.
Yeah, right.
Can you name a designer other than Franz von Holzhausen?
Right.
The engagement is insane. And while they don't have a PR department, these are absolutely PR events.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
And they are budgeted accordingly. They are handled accordingly. And if you would like to buy some merch, here's a T-shirt for a cajillion dollars.
Did you get an Optimus T-shirt?
I did not.
Oh.
They had hats that you could get that said 2023 shareholder meeting. And I was like, you've got to be joking me. This is ridiculous. But people were buying them. They're like, hell yeah, I was here. Stanley Cup Finals, baby.
Absolutely.
The mood was electric. I mean, I had to.
All right.
I had to, but it's true.
Yeah, I know. It was hard to not go there, yes.
It's true.
Well, Brian, I think that's a wrap on this particular visit. But we're going to have him back at least 2 more times in the near future. So make sure that you hit notify so you'll be notified of that, and hit like if you liked having Brian on. I know that it's hard, but pull your finger out and push that like button. Anyway, and then follow him and follow me. Follow us everywhere we are, Twitter and his YouTube channel and Patreon and all that kind of stuff. And Brian, as always, lovely to have you aboard.
I appreciate the time, Randy.
All right, and great talking to y'all.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.